Welcome in. Hey, let me know if you can hear me, by the way. I don't know how this is going to go, but let me know if you can hear me. Welcome in, folks. YouTube, always, you know where to find me. Hit subscribe if you haven't yet. Appreciate it very much. Twitter, search bar, Always Irish Rat, Always Irish Inc. Emails, alwaysirish@gmail.com. Audio only, anywhere you want me. You can get me. 312-900-8815 is the call-in line. We got a bunch of calls. We're going to get to the calls. Right away, we're going to get to the calls. We got a lot of people. I'm dead serious. Let me know if you can hear me. What am I for Halloween? Me in 30 years doing this show if Notre Dame doesn't get it right and win anything. That's what this is. That's what this is going to look like. All right? So audio only. Anywhere you want me, you can get me. Call in line 312-900-8815. We got a bunch of calls today. So we're going to do the roll call. We're going to hit a couple super chats. We're getting to all your calls. Let me know what you think. I'm dead serious. Let me know if you can hear me, because I will take it off if you cannot. Oh, who do we got? Good morning, everybody. Kent, you're always here, Kent. Matt Miller, Ben Emery, Paul Conley. Paul's always early. Paul, I appreciate the $5 holler. Try and call in 314. You can go up first. Drunk, good to see you. Angela, always good to see you here. Adam, Mark Holzum, Jaded, good to see Jaded. Chris Totten, Deborah Thomas, everybody's here today. Wade Garrett, good morning. I did not come out in a kitty cat outfit. Bass and Domer, Clay, why isn't John dressed up? That's a good one. Yeah, I don't know what it is either, but it was fun to put together. $19. Whoa, Nelly. Talk about beating the spread. 3 days of beer money. Meeting with my financial advisor tomorrow. Thank you, Dr. John. Appreciate that very much. Woo! We got a Halloween holler, $9.99. Never seen a bad-ish football make a good team look bad, but Drew Pine is holding back the entire program. It's an issue. It's an issue. Too much. Can you hear me? Because it's getting sweaty in here. Oh, it's getting sweaty in here. Looks like somebody I saw getting arrested on cops. You could damn sure bet. All right, here's the deal. It's Halloween. We got people that want to be involved, people that want to call. 314, you're coming up. We can talk football. Just because I got this outfit on doesn't mean we can't talk football. I'm ready for it, and I'm here for it, folks. Let's see if I can hear you through my my earphones here. So here's the deal. Obviously, big win. Big win. All right, 314-336-737-818. You're going to be the first batch. Here's the deal. Had to have the win. Needed to go on the road and get the win. Had to have the win to salvage anything you're trying to salvage for the rest of this year that you're still trying to salvage. You got that win. You squeeze that orange juice. The question everybody has is, can Notre Dame parlay that and come back home and play good football? Can you play good football at home against a good team? We haven't seen you play good football at home against a bad team. Can you come home and play a good game of football? That is the question. Parlay this. Turn it into something. Not one step forward, two back. Parlay it into something better. Get better. Can you do that? Can you? That's what I want to know. That's what I want to know. All right, let's hit the phones, see if I can hear, and we'll go from there. 314, you're on the air. Can you hear me?
Yeah, morning, John. How are you? Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. So what do you make of this? We got the win we absolutely had to have. Where does that leave us this week?
Well, I'm just going to be not stressed out watching this game, thinking that there's no way that Notre Dame can beat Clemson with Drew Pine. I'm just not going to get stressed out over it, and that's the reality of the situation. Here's the deal: you can't run the ball and dominate against Clemson like you could with Syracuse. You're going to have to pass the ball, and that is disaster for us.
Yeah.
I mean, how many? I mean, Pine is good for one interception a game at least, and it's frustrating, but, I like the team. And, but I'm also trying to figure out, John, if you look better or worse with your mask on.
I think that's up for debate.
That yet.
That's up for debate, especially given, what my mood is. Yeah, that's up for debate. You're absolutely right. Like, it was just painfully obvious Saturday that that's going to be a limiting factor. Quarterback going to be a limiting factor for Notre Dame the rest of the way. Even if he's good, it's going to be somewhat of a limiting factor. And if he's bad, it's going to be an exaggerating limited factor. The question is, can you do enough without putting all the work on Drew Pine's shoulders this week to hang in there with Clemson? And that's really the main question of the week, other than, are you going to show up at home at all? I mean, that's my first question. But second is, can you take the pressure off him enough with the run game and other things that it isn't all on him? And I don't know if Notre Dame can do that or not. You going to be able to line up and run the ball on Clemson the way you did last week? I doubt it. So what do you do then?
Yeah, I mean, Notre Dame's in a tough spot with, this. I just don't like the matchup with Clemson,
Yeah, it's tough because what they do best is what we're going to try and do. Like, we're going to try and run the ball. They're pretty good at stopping the run. Like, it's kind of a tough matchup in that regard, no doubt.
But I would just try to urge you, John, not to get stressed out, just thinking that Pine's going to blow it enough times where you're not going to be able to win, and don't get too stressed out.
Yeah.
And if they do win, great.
I know, but it's tough, man. You've seen this game on the calendar for years. You want to build it up. You want to be excited. Notre Dame's coming off a ranked road win. Like, there's a little bit of reason you could buy in a little, but I think everybody's coming to the conclusion you are, and a lot of people in the chats are saying the same thing. He's going to be a limiting factor, and you could get away with that against BYU and North Carolina, Can you do that this week at home? No. So you're going to have to figure something out.
But anyway, John, I don't want to stay on. You got a lot of calls. So good morning and happy Halloween to you.
Happy Halloween. And thanks for the support, man. You're always right on it, and I very much appreciate you. Thanks for being here.
Okay, bye.
Have a good one. Oh, boy. I don't know, folks. Like that's just the way it goes. Like, so we get the win. We got the big win we needed. And sure enough, like, we don't even really want to talk about that win and how that one was and how that felt and everything. Now we're looking at the next game. Like, we're already on to Clemson, So I don't know what you do about this, guys. The offense is just going to be a problem. It just is. It's going to be a struggle the whole time. There's no way around it. Yeah, it's a rural problem. There's no way around it. Pine's going to be a limiting factor. Everybody's seen it. Clemson sees it. You're going to have to figure out some other way to move the ball. You're just going to have to. 336, you're in the mix. Happy Halloween.
Yeah, hey, how's it going? So I called in last week and you asked what the odds were of Notre Dame winning against Syracuse, and I said I give them a 40% chance to win. I mentioned I thought I would be on the higher end of that number because I thought most people would look at Stanford and go, "There's no way we're beating Syracuse."
Yeah.
Was that one of the higher numbers you got? The 40% chance to win?
I don't know, like, of people actually putting a number on it, like, a lot of people aren't going to put that number on it. I mean, I had them winning in the USA Today poll that I had to put in pregame, just because I thought they could pull it out and play better on the road. So I don't know, but what did you think of overall the effort?
And there is kind of a loose corollary to the UNC thing. Looking kind of mediocre as a team, kind of limping into this game where it's like everyone looks at it and goes, if you can't beat Stanford and you struggle to beat UNLV, how are you going to beat Syracuse? We did the same thing when we couldn't beat Marshall, struggled to beat Cal, and then we go in and beat up on UNC. So there was a corollary there that I thought was interesting. It is interesting that they play on the road better than they play at home.
It is. I can't figure it out. I can't fully figure it out, man. Like it just can't be that way. Like you're never going to be able to exist that way, for any length of time. I don't know why, but it is clear to me. They play looser, more laid back and ready to go on the road. And it's bothersome. It worries me. I don't, why do you think that is? How can that possibly be?
I mean, maybe they feel pressure to perform in front of their own crowd, and it's just like one of those things where it tightens the team up and they don't perform like they need to. I don't know exactly. It's odd. Most teams play better at home than on the road. Notre Dame is like, we're going to be better on the road for some reason.
Well,
and
I don't know what's concerning about it is one of the things Kelly ended up getting pretty well on the right track of towards the end of his tenure was protecting our home turf. So Kelly actually got pretty good at that, and it took him some years to build to that. It's just really upsetting to see it kind of go by the wayside right away. Like that's what's upsetting to me.
Well, I will say that with the playing better on the road than at home, that doesn't bode well for Clemson, but that might bode well for Los Angeles.
Yeah, well, exactly. But the thing is, it just can't be one of these deals where I'm sitting there going, awesome, we have a road game. I love that more than a home game. Like, it's kind of like it's cute to say, like, oh, we play better, but there's something wrong. Like, I've had multiple people bring up mass, being like, are these guys getting like all zenned out in mass so they can't come out there ready to go? Like, people are grasping at straws because it makes no logical sense why we play so bad at home. It doesn't make sense. They play tight. Like, they don't like a bunch of people like me judging them or something in person. They play tight.
I don't think the academic part is the reason they play worse at home. I think there's something to just the game itself. And as I said, maybe it's just like they feel like a pressure to play at a high level at home, and then it causes them to tighten up and not be their best. And then on the road, they feel like we'll show these people and we'll play. And they play freer for some reason because there's no expectation on them. They're not playing in front of their own crowd. I don't know what it is, but I don't think it's academic. I think it's more the just weird setup of the team. I will say, so obviously Brian Mason has been a plus hire.
Yep.
Because he's the idea of like special teams not so much the kick returning side, because nobody kick return balls that go into the end zone. No one does that. So, but Brendan Joseph is a solid punt returner. He doesn't have the explosiveness of Rocket Ismail. He doesn't have that explosiveness to him, but he's solid. But the improvement, obviously, we've all seen has been going after the punt.
Makes a big difference.
Because they have those block punts, the block punt they had this past weekend, Clarence Lewis's punt block, that put the ball at the 2-yard line. It makes it a lot easier for the offense to drive the ball down the field when they have to go 6 feet instead of 60 yards.
Yeah, and
Like,
that's another big key to the Clemson game. You already know offensively it's going to be a struggle for Notre Dame. Can they steal some possessions? That's my question. Can you get a couple turnovers? Can you get one of those big special teams plays to flip the field or get an extra possession? Like those are all the things I think you're going to have to do to be in position to play with Clemson late at home. It's not going to be easy. And the other thing too is 737-818-812. You're the next three up. Stay with me. The other thing is you're going to have to play 4 quarters of good football to win this game. You're not going to be able to play bad half the game or turn it on late. No. So that's the other thing. Showing up to begin the game at home is one part. You also got to play a full ball game. You do. You got to play a full ball game, 4 quarters at home to be in this with Clemson. Can Notre Dame do it? It's a big ask. I haven't seen it yet, but I suppose it's possible.
I would like to talk up a little bit because I think that Al Golden is getting a bad rap a little bit here from some fans because I've seen fans being like, "Oh, he's like Brian Van Gorder," and I'm like, "No, he's not. He's not Brian Van Gorder. Let's not do that." The defense will. For some reason, they struggle on that first drive when the other team is, I guess, like in their planned out plays.
Yeah.
They struggle there. They seem to give up a lot of first drive scores, first drive touchdowns. But man, that defense locked up Syracuse for a good stretch there, and it felt a lot like we've seen this story before. Like, obviously the Oklahoma State game is the big example of the defense will get a stop, give the offense the ball back. The offense doesn't do anything and gives it back and puts the defense on the field again. And the defense keeps going back on the field, and eventually they cracks start to show when they are put on the field too much. And I kept thinking during the game, like, Notre Dame was up 7-0, and then it was 7-7, and it felt like Notre Dame could have pushed out to a bigger lead because Syracuse wasn't doing anything. And then when they finally got to 14-7, it felt like they could have pushed out to a bigger lead because Syracuse still wasn't doing anything. And then they got to 21, and every step of the way, it's like the defense is doing their job and getting the offense on the field. The offense isn't scoring enough.
Yeah,
I know it's odd to say that when they score some points. Well, the offense didn't, but
it really is a fair point overall when you look at the whole season. If Notre Dame had a decent offense, how much better would the defense look? Look at how often they've been out there on 3 and outs and some of the positions they've been put in because of the offense. So there are complaints with this defense. Like the tackling, I still don't think has been crisp most of the year. There's still a lot of bad angles. There's blown coverages back there. Like there's some things happening that we're not used to seeing Notre Dame defenses do. At the same time, at the end of almost every game, I go, yeah, the defense did enough to keep us in the game. Like I end up coming back to that most weeks, even within the complaints. Like I think if you could get this offense anywhere in the real world of what you want it to look like week to week, everything looks better right away. It's just how do you do that?
Yeah.
You can't we're kind of in what we're in till the rest of this year, aren't we? At this point, the year's flying by.
If the offense could sustain drive and move the ball like at all, the defense would look so much better because they are so frequently put into these positions where the offense goes 3 and out and puts them back on the field immediately, and then they're like, "Go get another stop. We need you to get another stop." It's like that's not the offense. Offense does not do any favors for the defense, and then everyone turns around and says, "Why is Del not doing better?" And it's like, what? And comparing him to Brian Van Gorder, I'm like, no, he's like that. That was a defense that couldn't get any stops. When in 2016, that defense couldn't stop anybody. We were in shootouts every week.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not that, but Notre Dame fans are not used to seeing some of these breakdowns, some of the chunk plays, big blown coverages. Like that's something Notre Dame's avoided for the most part the last handful of years and done a pretty good job of avoiding it. So we're not used to seeing that. there are some young guys back there learning, Morrison and some young mistakes. But overall, my biggest complaints aren't going to be on the defense. It's that offense. And I do not mean to pile on Drew Pine, but that's number one. That quarterback is just going to limit everything we could do. I would even go as far as to say I feel a little better about some of the production the wide receiver room we're getting. I feel better about that group. Not a lot better, but a little bit better. And it's but if the quarterback, he's got to be able to make the right reads, find open guys, not throw it into coverage, check it down to a guy for a first down, see guys open, put the right touch on a pass, whether it needs a laser or needs a rainbow, pick the right one. All that little stuff is a problem. It's a problem.
Can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question about something?
Sure.
So we spend so much. We've talked, and I've seen on online on message boards and everything, where people are talking about how the offense is the team is limited because the offense is so bad. And Tommy Rees and I keep I had the thought the other day of is Tommy Rees somewhat limited because Drew Pine, which is totally his fault.
Yep.
I'm not solving him completely here, but there is the idea that Pine is limited, can't make all the plays, is undersized. I've never seen a quarterback get so many passes picked. All that is it and not making excuses for Tommy, because Tommy Rees, he picked Drew Pine was his choice. He was the quarterback coach. He was doing the recruiting that year. I don't think they offered another quarterback other than Drew Pine. So the Drew Pine selection, and people will talk about how he had scholarship offers in 7th grade. Yeah, that's all fine. That's all fine and good. There was an expectation that when he was in 7th grade that he would continue growing.
Yeah, growing physically and mentally, into football. Yeah, that's a good point. That's the problem, and that's where this comes full circle to Rees. There is no escape for Tom Rees. If you say, "Oh, he doesn't have anything to work with, he's on his backup," but it's the guy he wanted. He wanted that guy. Go get a guy Drake May size to be your backup or your starter. So whatever road we want to pick, whether it's development or recruiting to begin with or whatever, it's just all not where you need it to be. It's just, no matter why, it's just not where you need it to be. It's not.
Beyond that, you could also the fact that he deliberately chose not to take a transfer this offseason. With the quarterback room where he saw that it was Buckner, who was a mobile quarterback who could get hurt, and then the next guy on the list was Pine. He knows that quarterback depth chart. He knows the room. He chose not to take a transfer at that point. That's also something you can look at Tommy and go, you messed up. You screwed this one up.
Now, all right, let me play devil's advocate here. Devil's advocate to that point is they thought Buckner was going to be the guy. They wanted to ride with him, and they wanted to develop him and get him going, and that was the plan. So is it fair you to say that now when there's this injury nobody saw coming and all that? That's probably what they were thinking. The staff was thinking, we don't want to rock the boat here. It's Buckner's time. We're going to run with him. We like the upside. And then you had the injury, and now we're down another notch. So there's different levels to this problem,
There was room for the argument that to say, they couldn't have gotten, Caleb Williams or Jackson. Well, Caleb Williams is always going to go where Lincoln Riley went. Or Jackson Dart, or one of the guys who ends up being a starter somewhere, because they want him to be a starter. So there is the argument that if you're saying Buckner is our guy, that you're not going to get one of those guys. But we literally during the Syracuse game saw a kid transferred from Florida this past offseason come in halfway through the game and basically light up our defense for a while.
Yeah.
So you're telling me you find that?
Yeah, and that's where I was going to say with those transfer quarterbacks, it's really tricky too. Think about it. Why would I want to, if I have like 1 year to transfer something or 1 year left, I'm not going somewhere if I'm not guaranteed I'm the starter. Like with Cone, I guarantee Kelly told him, you come here, you're the starter or whatever. Like you have the inside track to be the starter, something like that. And the other problem I have is all of this getting a transfer quarterback stuff. For Notre Dame, that's Band-Aid stuff. That is Band-Aid stuff. I need to see them recruit and develop their own guy, like naturally, to get this on the right track. It gives you stability. Stability we don't have in that room. To get a guy in there and develop him and he has an elite high upside. That needs to be the path, whether it's Carr and we have to wait or whatever. The patchwork stuff's good when you're in win now mode, but Notre Dame needs some stability. You need to recruit and develop your own guy.
That does need to be the path. That I agree that they need to recruit and develop their own guys. But this year we needed the Band-Aid.
Yeah. Well,
but
then they would have. But yeah, you mean a Band-Aid after Buckner got hurt, in between him and Pine? Is that the Band-Aid you mean, or a Band-Aid to start to begin with?
You needed something to add depth to the quarterback room. Whether you bring him in and say you're going to compete with Buckner and we'll see who shakes out where, which is what Syracuse, I guarantee you, told that kid from Florida that transferred. They said you'll compete. You'll compete with Schrader, and then we'll see who finishes one and who finishes two.
Right.
You probably couldn't get a Jackson Dart from that because he wants the guarantee.
Yeah.
Couldn't get Caleb Williams because he started.
Yes.
But
man, that's tricky.
You need to add.
It's tricky. Isn't this also tricky? And then it's like, if you bring a guy in, or you forcing one of your guys out, you got to worry about that. Do you rock the boat inside with what you have? You add another guy, and then the bottom guy on that totem pole leaves. Like, there's always this influx in and out. So what about next year? Notre Dame doesn't have a 23 recruit. You want to see them go get the Michigan backup, or what are you going to do there in 23? What's the plan for next year then, right now?
I mean, I think you have to I think you have to sit down with Buckner and say, hey, we promised you a starting job. You got hurt. You missed the back half of the year. We need depth in the quarterback room. So we're going to take a transfer. And if that means you're competing with someone, go win the starting job. If you need to have the confidence in yourself, go win that starting job again.
That's fair enough.
It's
you would like to think a lot of these guys wouldn't just shy away from competition and leave at the first sight of it or something like that. But this is it's a glaring problem for Notre Dame. And I think we would all be amazed how much one great elite prospect in the quarterback room could make things look a lot better right away. I don't think it'd take that long, but we just don't have one.
Yeah. And who are they getting in 23 that, they missed on all the top targets in 23. They missed on Dante Moore. They missed on Jackson Arnold. They missed on Chris Vizina. I don't know what other quarterbacks they were. I mean, Manning was never really an option.
It's
Notre
tough,
Dame.
man. It all needs to be figured out, and they need to really sit down and have a big discussion about that room and the direction of it and the trajectory of it. Moving forward, they're just going to have to, because it's the glaring issue holding us back. They all know it. Knowing it's one thing, but how do you get out of it? Knowing it's only half the battle. I need you to know and figure out how to navigate your way out of this mess. That's the other thing that I don't know if they're going to be able to do. And when it can happen. After this year, I need you to sit down in this room and figure it out. So I don't know, man, but thanks for the call. Have a good Halloween.
Yeah, the problem is the guy making those decisions. Freeman obviously is ahead of it, but after that, it's Reed.
Okay, but Freeman needs to take charge of this, though. Freeman needs to take charge of this. When the area clearly isn't as good as it needs to be, the head guy needs to step in and get more involved. So I need Freeman to be fully involved in this moving forward. He has to come over there. This is no longer, I'm a defensive guy, Tommy, the offense is all you. No. When it all looks this way, you give up that kind of credibility. Freeman needs to inject himself, get more involved. It's his reputation. He may have to make some tough decisions.
My question is more: is Reese going to be around next year, or I mean, that has to go before the quarterback question. You need to figure out the offensive coordinator thing before you can figure out the quarterback thing.
Well,
The
that
offensive
needs
coordinator
needs to be figured out the minute the USC game ends and Notre Dame gets ready to recruit the West Coast. So I don't know what Freeman thinks about that, but that's got to be figured out as well. Very good point. Have a good Halloween, man. I'm going to get somebody else on for a minute.
All right, sounds good.
Have a good day, man. Thanks. Oh, boy. $4.99, Brian, New York. A win is a win, so I can't complain about Drew Pine. Well, my own son's college team has been torpedoed similarly by bad quarterback play and losses, and it's agonizing. It just is. 737, you're on the air. Hello.
Good morning, John. How are you?
Good morning. Happy Halloween. So what do you think of this win? Good things to come? Are we turning a corner, or should we just be glad we got that one and trouble's coming our way?
Yeah, I think it was a good win. I think there was more good than bad, but our bad kind of just overshadows the good, if you will. You know, I mean, I'm looking at kind of some of the good. I mean, you got to say it, right? I would say to date, this is probably the biggest win in the Freeman era. It's our
you know what, man? Listen, I'm not trying to take for granted a road ranked win. Those are not the easiest things to get. Nobody's saying that this team was like a world beater, but a road ranked win is something to be proud of. So good job on that. They had to have the win and they got it.
Yeah, and it's not like ranked road wins were, come in hand over fist during the Kelly area. We certainly struggled in that regard in the bigger games. So it's nice to see. I think maybe every team we should play should be ranked number 16 because we seem to do good against that. Again, if I'm looking at good, most points allowed by Syracuse this year, I think that says quite a bit. I think other than what everybody said here today so far is extremely accurate, but the team played pretty well. I would say in most aspects, either played well or played better than they had in the past, minus our QB play, right? Defense is bend not break for the most part. I think that you look at the receiving core, you look at the linebacking core, you look at obviously special teams, which has been huge. All those have played better. I think what I saw yesterday, what I saw on Saturday was probably getting close to our ceiling with Drew Pine at the helm. You know what I mean? Like, I think that is our identity. That's what we're looking at. And, if Pine, which has come back down to earth and has kind of leveled out at that less than 50% completion percentage quarterback, that's probably who we are, right? I don't know if we're going to see much better. I think that, Pine probably hears what's being said, to say that he probably doesn't go out and, I don't know, look at Twitter, or I'm not huge into social media, but I'm sure he's looking at Twitter and everything else that's out there that says, hey, this is not the guy long term. It's probably not easy to hear and read all those things. And that may be something in terms of his confidence, obviously, but 47%, it's not getting it done. I think the part that troubles me the most, and I think this is probably the most unified I've seen everybody in terms of kind of addressing the biggest issue, is everybody at this point has seen, hey, Pine continues to get worse as the line gets better. Our own line is getting better every week.
Yeah.
You can't say that Pine he's hurried or he doesn't have the protection. The dude's got all day. You know what I mean? Like, everything is getting better minus the quarterback situation. So, I look at the good. I think, again, that one big glaring bad
is just so frustrating, isn't it, though? Because it's just so frustrating. And I look around the country and just see capable quarterback play all over. And like you said, I mean, that completion percentage number is a big deal for every quarterback. I would argue it's a bigger deal for somebody with Pine's stature and skill set because he's not big. He's not fast. He doesn't have the huge arm. Therefore, he's got to be extra efficient to provide the upside value that you don't get physically from those other areas. And that's where you're just not going to get it. I just don't think you're going to get it. You're just going to be limited. There's always going to be a wall. Even if he's on, there's going to be only a certain level you could get with that. And it's just frustrating. And I just think we're stuck in it the rest of this year. Try and find ways to win games.
Yeah. And I think when you look at Pine's 47%, you have to compare him to his peers or other quarterbacks that are out there. Pine's 47% is 47% on relatively easy throws. These are not difficult, going down the field, kind of trying to lay one in there all the time. These are 10, 15, maybe 20 yards that are just not happening. So these are easier passes with a ton of time being protected where he still can't make the throw. He's overthrowing it. He's underthrowing it, throwing it into the ground. He's almost nervous. And it's funny because you hear about what everybody said. Like, what have we heard all year about Pine as a backup? Certainly when Buckner got hurt when he was coming in. Oh, he's a leader. This kid's got a ton of confidence. He's built for this. Like, he's the kind of guy you want in there. And you can see that is all just kind of wavering, and he continues to get worse.
Well, the thing is, think about it. Think about what you just said. All of those features, not one of them is, this guy can make all the throws. Like, whenever the lead-in is, he's a gamer, and he's grindy, and he's going to keep getting up. Notice that it's never, he's got a huge arm, and he's going to win you the game by dropping dimes over the defense. Like, with Notre Dame, it's always, even on the high end, Ian Book, always tough. He's gritty. He's going to fight for that yard and wiggle out of a tackle. Like, just give me the big arm guy that can make all the throws. Why can't Notre Dame have that? Why can't Notre Dame have that? It's Notre Dame. Give me a guy that can make all the throws and is physically capable of competing nationally. Do I ask too much here? It's Notre Dame.
No, I think it's our train of thought. You kind of listen to everybody, and it says like, hey, you want those intangibles, you want the leadership, and you want the moxie, and you want the unwavering kind of attitudes and all the stuff. If you have somebody who has the physical abilities to be a great quarterback and throw the ball, those other pieces sometimes, not all the time, but a lot of times you can coach. They mature into those pieces. But if you have a kid that has the moxie and the leadership skills and all that stuff, but not the physical abilities. You can't coach. You can't give a kid the physical abilities. You got to start with the ability to then make everything else kind of work. And I think we're backing into the quarterback as opposed to looking at it the right way. Like, we want these intangibles, these kids who are great stewards of the Notre Dame culture and all that stuff. I get it. I certainly get it, but I still think we're going in the wrong way.
Yeah, it's just, it all needs to be looked at. So this year is what it is. You're in the middle of it. It's week to week. You need to get by. That entire offensive operation needs a good looking at with Reese and how they're trying to do it. And that entire quarterback thing needs to be redone, whether it's Reese or somebody else. The way they're going about recruiting and development and retention there is not good enough. And it can't just be the same thing. Because it's not working. You're not getting good enough results. You have to change the way you operate in that room.
Yeah, I'm watching the game yesterday, and the whole time I'm thinking, I keep saying yesterday, Saturday, and the whole time I'm thinking, we have a good quarterback. If we have a really good elite type quarterback, we're undefeated at best, and maybe at worst we have one loss, and we're pretty high ranked. Like I said, the team is. You can see it getting better. You can see it coming around. I think that's the piece that makes me feel better. The bad pieces, again, we don't have anything this year. We don't have anything lined up for next year. But I think that's where, somebody asked me and they said, what do you think about, you think Reese is here next year? And I said, how can he be? He's been the offensive coordinator now for what, 3 years? I don't know the exact, but how long has he been the coordinator And then before that, he was the QB's coach. So how long is he?
I
How
think
long was he in both those
what
teams?
was
You
it?
know,
20? Was it 20? Was that his first year? 19 or 20, I think, was his first year as coordinator, and then quarterback coach before that.
so let's just say he's got a solid 5 years in the mix with the quarterback room, right? So you got a kid in Buckner. Again, you know, if I'm to be honest with you, if I'm a possible transfer portal quarterback, if I'm looking at it, I'm watching that game yesterday and saying, with what I'm seeing, I could go in there and make a huge difference because obviously they have the talent. The running game alone, if I'm a quarterback, would make me want to go to Notre Dame. I'm seeing people open, you know, when we're concentrating at throwing at Mayer when there's 4 people around him, which doesn't make any sense. I love Mayer, but he's great because he's so great, but it's also there's a hindrance there because there's so much dependability on him. But
And you know what
if I'm
that
a quarterback,
is? I know what that is. That's Kelly and Reese putting it in Pine's brain the entire time he's been around. Mayer, dump down to Mayer, check down to Mayer. His brain is magnetized to Mayer, and I get why. But when there's 3 guys around him, you got to go somewhere else. See the check down wide open with yardage in front of him. Like, it's just a lot of little stuff that adds up to be not little anymore.
yeah, like I said, if I'm a transfer portal quarterback, I'm looking at that and I'm like, I can go to Notre Dame and make it an immediate impact. Again, I think we're looking at 2 completely different things. This is the first time now I'm seeing where, you know, somebody says, hey, the defense is this, or the receivers are really, you know, terrible, or at this point, I think it's clear to see progression is happening minus the quarterback is obviously the largest elephant in the room, but everybody sees it at this point. Everybody knows it. Everybody sees it. Everybody's talking about it. But again, this is where you go into Reese. Reese has had 5 years, let's just say, tied to quarterback, not just offensive coordinator, but tied to the quarterback. So 5 years, what have we had in the quarterback room over the last 5 years that's even close to elite? We haven't had anything.
Even Ian Book, which was the high end of that, wasn't elite. You are not winning the biggest game of the year because of Ian Book. You were winning against Virginia Tech at the end of the game. You should have never been behind because of Ian Book. That's the difference. I'm not trying to be a jerk, but when people ask, well, John, what's good enough at Notre Dame for you at quarterback if it isn't Ian Book? My answer's simple. Give me a quarterback we win the biggest games of because of, meaning the quarterback that's going to take over the game, make all the throws you need, put it in tight windows, do what you need to do to beat the best teams you play. I need Notre Dame's guy to be able to do that. Historically, Notre Dame's best quarterbacks have been able to do that. We need to get there. We're really far behind, and it's frustrating.
I almost feel like there's a little bit of, you know, maybe too much ego there. Like I think Book was better than we all thought he would be, and thankfully he was. I mean, he ended up being just really good. Now, did we win big games? I'd say that's probably less on Book and more on Kelly, just in terms of the way that Kelly coached big games and the way the kids got up for big games. But
yeah,
Book ended up being better than we thought. But in terms of Reese, so let's say we got Buckner. I don't think Buckner. If I'm again transfer portal quarterback and I know what's going on in Notre Dame, which you know probably they can't know as well as let's say you or your audience because they're spending time obviously playing for their own team and learning all that stuff. But if I'm a portal quarterback, I don't think for 1 second. And as a fan, does anybody here, if you were to take a poll, does anybody think that Buckner is the guy next year and he's healthy all season? I mean, the kid hasn't been healthy since his, I don't know what, sophomore year in high school. You know what I mean? Like how much?
Listen, man, that's going to turn into another big picture issue. I've already seen people say, you know, that guy might be done at Notre Dame. Do you have a quarterback competition then between Pine and Buckner? And we know one isn't good enough. The other one can't stay healthy and wasn't great before that. Like it all just isn't good enough, man. It all just isn't good enough. That's how it adds up. It just isn't.
No, it's not, and we should have better for what we are. But again, I think I almost think sometimes that Tommy Reese looks at some of these quarterbacks and says, "I see a lot of myself in this kid." And Reese was, you know, he was manageable. He was okay. He wasn't like amazing by any stretch of the imagination. So if he's getting kids that he think reflect what the traits that he had,
No,
that may be the issue.
No,
I mean, you look at
don't do that. I don't want that.
exactly. No,
Like,
nobody wants. But I think that's why we see Reese gone at the end of the year. I think it's just, again, if you look at the stable that he's responsible for, it's just not getting better.
And it's
hasn't
all
gotten
three
better.
things, man. Recruiting, development, retention.
Mm-hmm.
They're not good at all three. They're not good at any of the three. So it's all three of the areas that go into that particular coaching area. And I have a problem with all of them. So they need to figure it all out, man. I don't know. So we'll see. But you're right. That's the obvious issue. And it is fun to see other parts of the team play well. It's just beyond frustrating seeing that part hold us back.
Yeah. I mean, I think everybody said it. You know, if you were given the opportunity to take that Syracuse freshman backup, would you? Yeah, hell yeah. Kid was good. Came in.
He comes in and makes throws right away, in stride, has the arm, hitting guys, like whatever. It's so frustrating. Everybody else has no problem doing this. Their backups are whipping it around. I just can't handle it, man. It's wild. So I don't know.
I think the part.
Yep, go ahead.
But I think the thing that I hear that kind of I struggle with, and I don't know how true this is. This is people talking, but everybody says, "Hey, you know, Bryce Young over at Alabama was interested in Notre Dame." I've heard other names. I heard like J.J. McCarthy over at Michigan, you know, was wanting to go to Notre Dame. You see J.J. McCarthy, the way he started that Michigan game after watching Notre Dame, and it's like, man, this kid is so much faster, he plays with so much more intention. You know, it's so much more confidence. So, I hope we're recruiting a little bit better and looking at the kids that we need to look at. But all in all, I think best game of the year, best game for Freeman thus far. I think, again, we're seeing what we will be for the rest of this year, and that is probably a 50% completion, you know, QB unless he has a great game. We're going to have to run the ball. We're going to have to figure out ways to get this kid to make some throws, even if it is Angeli. I'd love to see Angeli just to see kind of what it's like. Obviously not going to happen versus Clemson. Could happen, you know, versus Navy or possibly Boston College when Jerkovic comes back. But, you know, we'll have to see. In terms of Clemson, can we win that game? Yeah, we can absolutely win that game. We stop Shipley a little bit. And depending, I mean, everybody's like, oh, but they put the backup quarterback in, and he was great. That backup quarterback threw like 4 or 5 passes the whole second half. It's not like this kid came in and lit it up.
Going to have to play a full game, though. Notre Dame's going to have to play 4 good quarters. You're going to have to show up at home to begin with. You're going to have to be able to run the ball with some level of success. I'm not expecting 250 yards like last week against Clemson. You're going to have to do something in the running game to give you any chance offensively. And that is what makes me very nervous. So I don't know how that's going to go. We'll break it down the rest of the week. But I thank you for the call, my friend. Have a good Halloween. I'm going to get a couple more calls in.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't forget, obviously, Kemsley, we're playing at home. So, John, I appreciate it. We'll be calling in again. We'll talk soon. Have a great one.
Beautiful. Appreciate it very much. Thanks for the call. Happy Halloween, my friend. All right, guys. I think the mask has about reached its limit. I am sweating like you wouldn't believe. Jeeper 12, $5 holler. Do QB recruits CND as a place quarterbacks go to stagnate? I don't know about that, but you know what they don't go and say? Look at all these 5-star receivers I get to throw to. Yeah, the running game's good. You got that offensive line. You're going to have your tight ends. Does any of this have to do with the wide receiver situation and the guys you have to throw to? And the quarterback's looking at that, looking down south, seeing more athletes down there. I don't know. I'm just asking these questions. All right. 818-812-937-219. You're going to be the next ones up. And I'm going to take off the mask and put the mullet back on, though. I am sweating like you wouldn't believe. Woo! Boy, that's rough, folks. Get my mullet right, the Joe Dirt going. All right. Now we're talking. Now I can breathe. Got the full Joe Dirt. Beautiful. Somebody says I like that guy. I like that guy too. Put the mask back on. Dude, you want me to breathe or not? You have no idea how hard it was to breathe in that thing, man. I'm sweating. I'm dripping. 818, let's make it great. Happy Halloween.
I shot him 6 times. I shot him 6 times. I'm telling you, he's not human.
That's pretty
talking
good.
about the real possibility that Micah Myers is still out there.
I like
What's up there,
that.
John? Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween, man. I like that. That was a good Loomis. That's a good Loomis. I dig
I was
it.
trying to decide what direction I was going to go in because the Here's Johnny is much more similar to that, right? But I'm like, no, I'm going to throw it off a little bit. Hey, man, happy Halloween. By the way, you know what that mask reminded me of? Well, I get the feeling we have some things to talk about here, horror-related, because if there's anything that matches my passion for Notre Dame football, it is Halloween, it is horror movies. I have one tattoo, and it's the Halloween movie poster on my upper thigh.
Wow,
That's my only tattoo.
that's a unique tattoo and a very unique placement. I'm not gonna lie. I might not ask to see it,
Well,
depending
there's a
on where
reason for
that's at.
John. That injury, the injury I have on my wrist that I had, the scar I got there, that was a skin graft from my thigh that they had to put over that. But then it turned out that it went away with not a scar, but I'd already had the idea, so I went ahead and got it.
Wow.
Hey, listen, I know you got some calls on, so I want to get to some points. But
Sure,
I
go
want to
ahead.
say that mask you had reminded me of, you know, the scene, and have you seen Friday the 13th Part 3?
I'm sure I have at some point. They all blend in after a while.
There's a scene where Jason catches a guy at the side of the cabin, and he's taking each side of his head and basically squeezing it like a vice, and the guy's eyes pop out. It looks like that right at the beginning of his eyes starting to pop out. That's what that mask reminded me of.
You know what? I've had that mask 30-something years. I think my dad got that when we were little kids. It sits in a box and it ages, and it gets better with age. And then you add a mullet wig on it. Hey, I'm just looking to have a little fun. I love Halloween. Let's flip this over to football. What do you think of our performance Saturday? You happy with it?
I'll be honest with you, man. I actually am very surprised at most of the callers so far. Usually I'm in agreement with them, but I'm like, come on, everybody. I agree about Pine. Everybody's correct about Pine. My God, man. Have you seen him? I would almost equate this to the Indianapolis Colts, the year they beat the Bears in the Super Bowl. Remember how historically bad that defense was? And then somehow the playoffs come around. They get one player back from injury, and they become like the most dominant team in the playoffs on defense. I remember that stretch. It was crazy. That's almost what I'm seeing with the offensive line. They went from really bad to start the year, and they are playing dominant football. I mean, this is like Lou Holtz year's dominance right now. I'm just saying what we've seen the past 3 weeks or so. And it makes no sense. I guess Pine's ceiling, if you had to say ceiling, was the North Carolina BYU games because those are when he had the 70% completion percentage.
He was averaging, way above 70% in those 2 ball games. Now we're sitting under 50, and it's not efficient. A guy with his skill set has to be efficient to provide value. We're not getting it. But we're kind of trapped, Rodney. There's nowhere to go. They're not going to throw Angeli in there against Clemson out of nowhere. There's nowhere to go.
This guy had, John, I could eat a Happy Meal at McDonald's for the time he's getting back there at the football. How is his percentages going down? It makes no sense to me.
It makes perfect sense. Rodney, it makes perfect sense. The numbers are going down because he's just limited. He's physically limited, man.
What I mean, John, though, is for 3 weeks in a row, he had over 70%. That's three. It's not one week of anomaly. It was 3 weeks in a row. And it's like, how do you digress when the line's giving you more time? Receivers are getting better at getting open. It's almost like he has to feel like his ass is on fire or he doesn't play well because he does seem to respond well when he's getting yelled at for some reason. But I don't know what it is. It's just like, the line is playing so dominant right now. I mean, they're just absolutely.
Now, let me ask this. No. Rodney, let me ask you this. That offensive line's playing good. Are you going to say that after the Clemson game? That's a big question. Are they going to move people? You're moving people on Syracuse, fine, that light front. Are you going to be able to run the ball at all against Clemson? Or are we going to end up in a situation where we run it into a wall, 2 times for nothing, and then it's 3rd and long, and Pine's running for his life, throwing it into the 5th row? Like, that's the nightmare on offense this week, is you can't get any running game, and then it's 3rd and long, and then Pine's dead, and then we're dead. You have to avoid that. So the big test is, they look great against Syracuse. What can you do this week? Can they take it to the next level?
Well, and the thing is, that's great, and that is the next step, is doing this against a really good team. I just crossed out one of my bullet points because it was Syracuse playing Clemson, outplaying Clemson for most of the game. Now, that doesn't always equate there. We understand that. It's not like, well, this team played good here, so eventually, you're going to beat them because we played, better than they did. It doesn't always work that way. However, I will point out that everybody seems so scared of Clemson. Look, if they can beat us because they're well coached. They're a well-coached team. They've done very good consistently recruiting. They're a really, really good program. I kind of feel like we're kind of right there on Clemson's level the last couple of years where they've kind of fallen to, with the major exception, of course, being Trevor Lawrence.
Yep.
That was the big difference.
Yep. Right? That's what I was going to say, too.
I think we're kind of even with Clemson, John. And I think this is the one game where such a big, like you just said, but I think this is where the home environment plays to our favor. I think I was saying this all early in the year. I said, generally speaking, when they play a team like a top 5 team that they got to get up for, that's when you want to be home. That's when the home crowd's going to have an effect. I really think this week it's going to be an advantage. I'd be shocked if it wasn't. Now when we go back at home again after this, I'm going to be worried. But I mean, for this week, I actually think it's an advantage. So that's the next bullet point. But John, red zone defense. Let's talk about this, man, because it is so weird the way it's going. Usually, if you're this bad in the red zone, that spells bad defense. It's like we're a bend but don't break defense that plays really bad in the red zone. That usually doesn't go hand in hand and equate to good defensive play. So I'm just thinking to myself, if we were just much better in the red zone, our defense would look borderline dominant. It's just we're so bad in the red zone for some weird reason. And it's like, if you're going to play the way we play in the red zone, then you need to take more chances. Because it just seems I don't know what it is, man, but I just haven't figured it out, how we can be that bad in the red zone and that good between the 20s.
Yeah, I don't get that either. It's bizarre. Like, they're allowing, I'm pretty sure every team that's gotten in the red zone is scored, and more than half of them are touchdowns, whatever that number is. They went over it in the game. I don't know why that is, but it's really disturbing. And again, it's something historically Notre Dame's defenses have been pretty good at. Bend but don't break, hold them to 3, whatever, live to fight another day. It's an issue. The defense is weird, man. They have flashes of looking really good, and then they'll have drives where it's just really bad football. And I'm just not sure what the disconnect is, like what that fabric is that holds it together or has it fall apart.
It's sort of like the home crowd thing, man. It seems like when they get too comfortable or too lazy in body language, they just fall apart. This team's got to have a fire lit under them at all times, it feels like. I think that might be what is missing from these home games, is there's just not the same. We've got to find a way to produce the energy. If it's not, John, and this goes to my first bullet point, was Freeman learning early. Remember I told you earlier in this year, the reason why, if we're looking at this year as like, okay, getting worse and then it gets better, what's so great about what's happening right now, and I don't mean to be overly optimistic, but I just looked at all these bad things that are happening are so easy to pinpoint what the problem is. But it's not like you got to go through 2 seasons. Okay, now we kind of figured this out. The bad home game play is so obvious now because it came against 2 bad teams, after and before and after.
All right. But now let me ask this. Identifying the issues is one part of the equation. How do you fix them? That's the harder part. Like
Sure.
identifying that as an issue, but the thing at home is beyond disturbing. I am very put off by the idea that they just play tighter. They play less comfortable in their own building, and that is obvious, and it's upsetting.
Yeah, and I agree, and that's why. But I think that because when you think of the psychology of that, okay, because it seems to me it's a psychological problem. I mean, let's be real, man. It's a psychological issue. So that being the case, what is it about it that's causing that? And that to me, that's how you fix it, or how you go to fix it. Is you got to figure out what's happening. Okay, so it just feels like an energy problem. There's an energy problem. Like it's just. There's no...
Something's off. I don't know. I can't put it into words, man, but something is off with this energy.
Don't you hate that you can't... Because it sucks if you can't, like... Oh, it's not tangible.
But it's there. But yeah, you can feel it. You can feel it, but I don't know what to call it. But there's just something in the air for home games this year that's... It's just a little bit off. I don't know how to put it. I've been there for a couple of the games. I've seen you a couple times there. Something's off, and it's very uncomfortable. And guess what?
Well,
you got to get it right this week. You got to get it right this week, and you got to figure out how to show up at home.
I think that the 3 home games we've had have been against teams that we were supposed to beat easy. And I think that has a lot, or is it 4? How many games have we played now at home? 3? Is it 3? Or 4, right? Yeah. They have been against teams we're easily supposed to beat. So again, let's see how the energy is this week against Clemson. I think it's going to be different. I think it's going to be a great game. I think it's going to be a game that comes right down to the wire. I'm going to take Notre Dame in a close one. And that could really springboard this team. If they can get a win like that against that kind of a team.
That changes a lot. That changes your narrative. It builds you some credibility after you lost it. You would have momentum at home. You would be able to then put together a list of ranked wins from Freeman's first year that's very impressive. Like, there would be a lot of positives on the ledger if you're able to get this win at home. It is a big ask just because I think Clemson's good at some of the things Notre Dame's going to want to be good at. Notre Dame's going to want to run the ball and have to run the ball. Clemson's going to feel pretty good. They're going to be able to stop it. What's Notre Dame's pivot from there is where I really get concerned.
Yes. I mean, again, you can't just say because Syracuse did this to Clemson, Notre Dame pretty much dominated Syracuse, if we're being honest, in terms of the, 4 quarters.
Yeah.
You beating the guy in front of you. They dominated Syracuse. That doesn't necessarily mean that just because of that Notre Dame's going to do that to Clemson. But what it should do is give you the confidence that you can hang with this team. And I just think I think both teams, Clemson's they're going to bring it. Dabo will have them ready.
Yeah.
And I think Freeman's going to have Notre Dame ready. But I will say, man, I am really gaining confidence in Freeman as a head coach, though. I'll say that. He's just getting better week to week. Yeah, there are problems that have to be addressed, but what I like about Freeman and what I have faith in Freeman about, John, I think for a couple weeks there, we were kind of worried, he's saying these things in the press. He gets them. He gets them. You can feel it on him. He gets it. He's just saying that, and that's the way you probably should do it. Freeman's a good guy, man. We're not going to, we get frustrated we don't hear what we want to hear, but yet when we do hear what we want to hear, then we're like, we don't want to hear that either. Oh, we shouldn't have thrown those players on the bus.
Yeah.
Or whatever. We hear
that the past. You know what else? Yeah. You know what else?
He's taking care of it on the field. Good. Yeah. Go ahead, John. Here's
what else I like about the coaching. 812-937-703. You're up next. 219. If you call back, I'll punch you in. What I liked about the coaching was whoever made the collective or individual decision to run with Estime after the fumbling issues and feed him the ball and feature him as much as they did, early as they did, knowing it was going to be an Estime type of ball game. I like that coaching, buying into him, showing you have confidence in him, running him right back out there. You could have put him in the doghouse. They didn't. I really like that style of coaching. They believed in him, fed him the rock, and he stiff-armed a guy into next year and looked fine, scored a couple times. I like that as an example of coaching. Whether it was Reese, McCullough, Freeman, whoever, good job on that piece of coaching. I really appreciated that.
Okay, and John, I'm going to let you go to this because I want to let people get on. But one last point. I'm going to give you an X factor next week against Clemson. Because of everything you just said, I think, in my estimation, the player that's going to pop next week is Braden Lindsey. I think it's Lindsey's time, and with everything that he's done, and the hard as he's worked, many times the ball's been overthrown, and sometimes when he's had catches that he's easily dropped in the past. This is his game to shine. Everybody watch for Braden Lindsey next week. I just got a good feeling about it.
Man, that would be – I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting that name. That's a good wrinkle. Can you get him behind that defense? Once or twice is all it's going to take to flip that whole game. Can you do it?
I got a weird feeling that there's something coming his way.
Beautiful.
This week. A couple of plays that are coming his way. And on that note, John, I'll be seeing you this weekend at the Clemson tailgate and everything else. We will talk later in the week, and happy Halloween.
Beautiful. Happy Halloween, man. I'll see you there Saturday, probably the same tailgate, so you know where we'll be at.
You got it, buddy.
All right. Later. Oh, man, that guy got a Halloween tattoo on his thigh, he said? That's impressive dedication to the cause. 812-937-703. You're up next. Christopher Morgan, $5 holler. Besides Marcus Freeman, my new favorite coach is Brian Mason. The game with special teams is the most exciting I've seen in like the last 5 years. Yeah, I love it. I love it. Like, it's exactly what I've been asking for from special teams from Notre Dame forever. And every time I used to ask under Kelly, what's the deal with these special teams? Doesn't seem like it's prioritized. They would say exactly. When I asked about practice, they would say, Kelly wanted special teams to be a neutral at Notre Dame. Not hurting you, but not putting the time in at practice it takes to make it a plus unit either. I kept being told that. Kelly just wanted net neutral, and it wasn't a big priority to push special teams. I love this. I love special teams, good special teams play. It's a good way to get younger guys involved. It's a good way to get depth guys involved, get experience on the field. And, oh, by the way, you could change the outcome of games. I absolutely love it. Brad Johnson, sorry, guys, I'm not a big Freeman supporter. There's still time for that to change, I'm sure, right? Like, I mean, if he puts it all together as a good recruiting class in a couple years, you might feel differently. 812, we're talking to you. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween, John. Hey, my first thought of the costume was I'm here to kick butt and chew bubble gum, and I'm all out of bubble gum. It reminded me of Rowdy Piper off the movie They Live. I loved it.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I like bringing that back. And somebody else said I look like Brian Pillman. So that's some early wrestling there too as well with the mullet he had and all that. I like having fun on a Halloween, man. It's always a good day, good fun day. So what do you make of Notre Dame's performance against Syracuse, and how will it portend for this week's ball game?
I want to talk about an earlier caller that was talking about why they can't play at home and they play well when they leave home. I think it's just focus. I think they have a lack of focus at home. No distractions away from home. I know this has been talked about before. That's where I'm at with it. I don't know if the team needs to get off campus Friday night and come back in town before a game, show up for the game. God, I hate saying business trip, but make a business trip out of it.
Yeah, it really bothers me. I feel like they just play tight. Like they feel a bunch of people like me in there with my notepad writing down everything they're doing wrong to talk about the next week. Like, I honestly feel that. I feel a vibe this year at home games just tight and wound. Everybody, the crowd too, just kind of wound tight. And maybe that's all Marshall. Maybe if Marshall never happened and we won it with a field goal at the end and it was ugly, maybe that's what turned it that way. I don't know, but Freeman needs to get that figured out. You can't not wonder if you're going to show up at home forever, right?
Yes. And I know last time I called, we were making fun of Tennessee with the McDonald's bags. Did you see the Tennessee opening for the game. The way they done Rocky Top, what they did with their fight song.
What did they do?
Notre Dame needs to take notes. I know it's a 50-year-old country song.
Yeah.
They remixed it. Sounded phenomenal.
Oh, okay. I got you. Would they put a little bass behind it there? Little beat?
They remixed it and chopped it up. It sounded and looked phenomenal. Take notes. I'm telling you, it's hard to get it. It's hard to get up in a stadium for a bunch of songs these kids don't know. The Tennessee kids understand Rocky Top, even though they don't know who sung it. They don't know anything about it. They know it's the fight song. Great. Take notes. Do something with it.
Yeah,
you've got to get the musty, dusty, mayonnaise is spicy, missionary is kinky, old fuddy-duddies who are hanging on to their pearls. Let them watch it at home.
Yeah.
This isn't your place. Come to the grotto, visit all your buddies, get out at game time. Go away. Don't need it. Don't want it, don't need it.
It's, man, that's so hard, though. Like, you're always going to have a certain percentage of that. There will be less of them there this weekend because it's a night game. And a lot of those people just don't want to be up late or driving that late. So you might get a younger crowd this time. What do you think the odds are Notre Dame's, one-score game with Clemson early fourth quarter? What do you think the odds of that would be? What percentages would you put on that? Notre Dame in a one-score tight game early fourth quarter this Saturday night. How likely is that to you?
60% rock fight. Yeah, I'll go for that.
Yeah, and the thing is, Clemson, you got to respect them. Like, I respect Dabo. There's no doubt they had a really hot run a couple years ago. Like, that guy knows what he's doing. I also know they have talent on that team. They're beatable, but Notre Dame's got to play a damn good full ball game. Like, that's where I'm at already on this. They are beatable, but Notre Dame's going to have to play really good almost all the game or for all the game for that to happen, I think. Is that what you see?
Yes. Yes, this Clemson team this year reminds me of 2020 Notre Dame. You're having a quarterback issue. It hasn't came full circle yet, but you can feel it. But everything else is good.
Yeah, and then you can ride on that defense, use your running game a little bit. Like, yeah, I could see that.
So you have to ask yourself, can this Notre Dame team beat the 2020 Notre Dame team? Ask yourself that.
Probably not. That defense would probably shut them down. I don't know.
That's my fear. But I think it could be a rock fight. I really do.
Yeah, and I just feel like if you can't get up for this at home, I really don't know what we're doing here. Like, you have an undefeated, what's going to be a top 5 playoff ranked team coming in here at night at your place. If I shouldn't have to manufacture energy for you to be excited about that opportunity. Like, no.
Yeah, I agree totally. 100%.
So let me ask this. What Drew Pine do you think we're going to get this week? Are we going to get the 75% completion guy, the 47% completion guy, or somebody in between? Like, what are we going to get, and how do you minimize his potential impact on the game?
I think he's a 50% guy. The 70% games were the anomalies until they got tape on him and figured out, he's not going to throw it over 20 yards, and you just bracket Mayer and he's done.
Yeah.
That's why he's a 50% guy. Because when somebody's standing next to him, he thinks they're supposed to catch it at their shoelaces.
Yeah, it's tough.
He understands this isn't European football, correct? He understands that? He's not throwing it in over his head from the sidelines to bring the ball inbounds. He understands that, right?
I just...
Did the Dr. Pepper commercial confuse him about the football coaching carousel? Like, it's round football? We don't do that here?
I know. It's hard, man. And then some of the passes that need touch come in as lasers. Some of them that need lasers have too much touch. Like, That's all a part of this, man. It's all a part of it. My question is, can Notre Dame run the ball well enough this week that it minimizes the pressure placed on Pine to have to win the game with his own arm? I think that's a huge factor of who wins this game. Can Notre Dame do enough on the ground so it isn't all on that guy to make all the throws? Because that's how Notre Dame gets in trouble, unless we see something we haven't seen yet.
Yes, I need to go back and watch the Clemson-Syracuse game. How well did Syracuse run the ball? Did they at all? Clemson is Clemson.
They
Can you
didn't
run on these guys?
They did
at
not.
all? I haven't watched them much this year.
I do not believe Syracuse ran the ball well on Clemson. I don't think so at all. I think they threw the ball on him, if I remember correctly. Yeah, so I don't know. I know if you're Dabo, you're going to sell out to stop the run and beg Pine to beat you with his arm. This is like the oldest coaching plan in the book. You know Notre Dame's going to want to run, and you try and stop that, and then you have one-on-one matchups, and you're exposed on the back end, but he figures Pine ain't going to beat me. And so there's your challenge, because that's how it's going to be set up. There are going to be opportunities for those one-on-one shots and man coverage deep and all that. Can you hit them? Notre Dame's going to have to be in this game. I'm telling you, going to have to hit some of them. Not all of them, some of them.
Exactly, because you're not out athleting this group. That's not happening. And you don't even have to have a defensive coordinating meeting. This could be done in passing in the hallway. Hey, Brackett Mayer put 8 in the box. Okay, cool. And you leave and you're done. That's it. That's your defensive planning for the week. Time to go get lunch.
Yeah, but it's like
something different.
I know you're not going to be able to line up and just run the ball like you did last week. I know that. Clemson is too good to allow you to do that, and they're going to build their defense to prevent it. Reese needs to already know that and plan for that and pivot off of that. He already needs to be on step 2 of this. All right, I know what they're going to do. I'm going to do this to checkmate it and get around it. Like, Pine's going to have to make plays with his arm to keep Notre Dame in the game, and that makes me very nervous. It just does.
Yes, if you're going to run the ball and win this game, or at least stay close, it's going to have to be from Chris, the Jet Sweet Tyree.
Well, there you go. And that's the other thing, man. When you're going into this kind of ball game and you have, kind of a liability at quarterback, I don't think that's a negative thing to say. I think it's an accurate thing to say. Notre Dame's also going to have to take some chances. I know you don't love doing that. I'm not asking you to be irresponsible with the football. I think you need to pick your spots, take some chances, try and hit a couple big plays this week. Whether they're tricks or just taking a couple shots deep, whatever. Notre Dame's going to have to be aggressive and take some chances. Will they?
I don't know. I think you win this game through special teams. That is something that Dabo has never had to worry about with Notre Dame. There was never ever an issue with Kelly. We all know this. I think that this game might be won on a pick six. I'm not saying the opening move of the game.
Right.
This game might be won on a field position, block punt, pick six type of thing. And just pray the offense can stay out in front of it.
Yeah, and it's
a rock fight.
Yeah, it's. I'm telling you what, that special teams thing, it's all good now when we're in a year where it's like a weird year, you're not playing for much. Where everybody's really going to appreciate this is in a couple years, if the team's way better and that special teams unit is still humming, that's where you get the maximum output from it. Like stealing possessions, just never let up. I love it. Steal a possession, could make or break the game. Get after them again this week. You can't take anything for granted if you're Notre Dame.
Absolutely. I'll guarantee there's more game planning in South Carolina going on for special teams in this offense.
Yeah,
Honestly.
it's frustrating, man. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting. This game does have a little juice now. Notre Dame, beats Syracuse. It gives this game some juice. 9-3 is on the table still. We could ask how likely it is, but it's still on the table. And until Saturday night, we'll see if we can hold on to that.
That's true. Hey, that's all we can do is hope and pray.
There you go. Well, happy Halloween, my friend. Have a good one. We'll talk to you later in the week.
Go Irish, John.
Go Irish. See ya. Oh, Brad Johnson. They won't be able to run the ball against Clemson. Clemson might have a better D than Ohio State. I'm just telling you. I'm not trying to see two lame, boring runs into a wall for no yardage. And then we end up in 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 11. And then we have Pine running around and no one's open or he doesn't see him. And then we punt again. No, that is playing right into Dabo. And I do not want to allow it. Okay? Do not. 937, you're on the air. 703 next. Good morning.
Hey, John.
What's going on, man?
Well, first I just want to say I hope we all understand how important of a win the Syracuse game was just for our overall record. Because now, you got 2 top 10 teams and 2 unranked teams left. So if you just split that, you don't have if you only win 6 games, that sounds really bad.
Yeah.
So it was a really important win. It also gives you confidence, hopefully confidence that you can actually go in and beat Clemson this week too. So
yeah, you're in a position. I mean, obviously, every win's big. College football season has the shortest regular season of all sports, and that's obviously everyone's a big deal. But you're right. I mean, when you started out the way Notre Dame did, every single win you just need just for covering face, putting out the flames, helping recruiting, just your own vibe, for all those reasons. Yes. And it was a road ranked win, and those are not easy to get. Good job.
Yeah. It was a good win. It was a good win. And I guess Marcus Freeman must have went on Fiverr and hired some little kid to go do some analysis to tell Tommy Rees, how Tommy Rees wins games? He runs the ball 30 times or more. Our 3 losses, we ran the ball 25 times or less. And in our first 2 games, guess who our leading rusher was? Tyler Buckner.
Yeah.
Not even a running back. So as far as we also were getting better. Well, we're running a different team than our first 2.5 games. Running more things right up the middle. We're pulling Michael Mayer. When he pulls, he comes right up the middle of the line. We're beating up people in the middle. And we run the ball, we do well, and I cannot believe that I don't know, like you said, don't know who said we need to play Estime again. Don't put him in the doghouse. I almost just find it unbelievable that we ran Estime as much as we did this game, considering he wasn't getting much. He ran the ball 3 times against UNLV. He had a fumble. This is like his 3rd fumble. But look, once again, somebody probably went to Tommy Rees and said, "Hey, since the California game, Estime was averaging 7.2 yards. Maybe you just got to live with some mistakes."
Yeah, I love that. I thought it was really good coaching, and I thought it was a small thing, but something to notice with a new regime and a new head coach, how he would approach the dynamic. The reality is that soft, lighter Syracuse front screamed for an Estime type day, the way he runs. I loved it. I loved it. It showed confidence in him. And he's the type of guy that responds well off that. And I love it. So I thought that was great. I just know Notre Dame's going to have to pivot off the run at some point in this game against Clemson.
Yeah.
And I just don't. Yeah. I do not feel confident that's going to go well. I just don't. But you're not going to be able to run it for 300 yards on these guys. You're going to have to throw it.
I do not understand Tommy Reed. Now, explain this to me. 4 times in that game, we lined up with like the entire team's offensive line, and then we have estimated fullback. I think Tyree was running back. Okay, and 3 straight times we handed the ball off to Estime, and we got a first down. But then we just changed our formation. Like, I kind of think about like dominating somebody on a particular play. Then you're supposed to play off of it, counter it, right? Like, isn't that what you're supposed to do? You're supposed, with a formation, you know, you have your bread and butter play, and then you play off of your bread and butter, you know? And then we see it one more time when we were on the goal line, and we handed off to Estime again, and I mean, they knew what was coming, and they stuffed them. So, like, what I don't want to see now is the first time we run that formation against Clemson, we try and do something, you know, cute, and we end up messing everything up. Instead of actually, you know, once again, like, you run your bread and butter play, and then you actually show them you have to stop it, so they commit more men to stopping.
All right,
run,
now let me give you this.
play off.
Let me give you this. Let me throw this at you.
Sure.
What if we wanted to get freaky here, and Tommy Rees is sitting there knowing Clemson's going to stack the box with 20 guys to start this game? What if Rees comes out and goes, "The hell with it. Lindsey, go deep. Merriweather, go deep." What if they go the other way and Rees tries to get one step ahead of Clemson and open, spreading guys out, trying to throw the ball, knowing Dabo's going to build a wall? What then?
Well, Tommy Rees better be praying the rosary during the game then, because we all know what's going to happen.
Right.
Look, Drew Pine has had plenty of deep ball opportunities. I think he's 1 for 4 to Merriweather.
Yeah.
So,
and then missed Lindsey on more than enough occasions, and didn't even see Lindsey when he's open on more occasions.
And he throws a dangerous deep ball. So, like, Tyler Buckner, he missed some deep balls too, but he overthrew everybody, right? Like, that was his, the classic one was like Marshall right before halftime. He overthrew Lindsey. He was overthrowing people. But this is dangerous because, look, Drew Pine underthrows everybody. And against a good team, it's going to get picked off. We're not going to get so lucky against, BYU or whoever, where we hit the defender in the back, and Thomas just scoops it up off of his back, pad.
Yeah.
So, because those guys might actually turn around. But yeah, I think we know the team that we are at this point. We have to run the ball, and it's in my perspective, it's either going to work or you're going to have to adjust off of it, and so you might have to throw the ball some. But if you just say, well, we're going to throw what's been successful the whole year, the only thing that's been successful the whole year, we're going to throw that out the window, try and trick these guys. I think that's a big failure.
Yeah, well, it's a big risk. It's a big risk with what you think. Risk. It's a big risk because you don't know you can pull that off. I just know for a fact Dabo's going to sell out, stop the run no matter what. And I just don't want to see Notre Dame play right into that. Like, I get it. You can't try and run the ball twice. It doesn't work. And you get away from it and start throwing it. I'm not saying that. But you got to actually gain some yardage here in the run game to make that everything work, or this is going to be a nightmare.
I think our boys were emotionally ready for Ohio State. Like, that's about the hardest I've ever seen a Notre Dame team play.
Yeah.
Offense and defense. I just don't think that they knew. I think on offense we didn't have a clue of how to actually execute our offense. But look, I think if we can get our boys up again to get that, Anna Medola was talking trash before leading up to Ohio State, kind of mentality again. If you can get that emotion again, I really do think that our offensive line and our 2 running backs, Diggs, since that Cal game, he's averaging 5 yards, so our 2 running backs, I think I really do think that they're going to have a hard time stopping us. And, because we have a good offensive line, we're starting to run the right schemes, and we got 2 good running backs. So at some, I don't want to have what happens against Stanford,
where you run the ball like 18 times and you average like 5 yards, 6 yards a carry, but you lost the game because you just said, well, we're going to try and throw the ball.
Yeah.
You know,
It's now, you know what else too? Hey, you know what this makes me think of? Didn't you like seeing Colsey spark? 3 catches, average 15 per. That was really nice to see. He looked healthy and he was making some good cuts, good routes. Let's get him and Merriweather out there together doing that. Let's go.
Let me ask you a question, John. It's kind of an interesting scenario. What would be easier, to get a quarterback transfer or a high-end offensive coordinator when looking at what our offense is going to be next year? With our offense next year, our three like our starting wide receivers could, if you start one of the freshmen, like we can have all starting wide receivers over like 6'3", you know?
Yeah, and man, it'd be so welcome to have big body receivers.
Running backs. You got 2 sophomore running backs returning. You're gonna have, I don't know all the ages of the offensive line, but like you got 2 like sophomores on the offensive line, you know, and what's easier, telling a QB you got to deal with Tommy Reed, who has historically, you know, not improved any quarterback ever, or an offensive coordinator say, hey, we actually have a lot of talent here that is ready to be used. You know, our one weakness just got so much stronger.
Yeah, man, that's tough. It's tough. Like, I don't know. I struggle with this, and I struggle with the Reese thing. It's like, well, what if you did have a good quarterback to work with? What would his offense look like? Like, I don't.
I'm gonna tell you, John. I looked up our recruiting with our quarterback. So since 2012, we had Keel, who was like a 5-star. Zaire, Kaiser, Wimbush, Book, Avery Davis, and Phil Yurkovich. All of those guys, except Book, they had something in common. They all had a pair of legs, and they and they had an arm to a degree, but like they were kind of a not stereotypical pro style. They could all run the ball a little bit. But then since Tommy Reese enters the scene, you get a guy called Brendan Clark who never played, Drew Pine, Tyler Buckner, and Angeli. So except for Buckner, they all are standstill white guys.
But like, you can be standstill. You can be a standstill guy if you are big and strong and have a big arm, and you can make all the reads.
But those guys aren't Peyton Manning.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
They're not a Manning boy.
Right. Like you can be that. You can be that, but only if you have an elite skill set within the skill set you have. Right.
I don't think Angeli's a savior. His rating was like 87.
Me neither.
You know, whatever.
But he is a little bigger. He gives you that.
I still think so. So like, look, what makes Dabo Swinney a great coach, right? He had a really good quarterback, but he saw the freshman on his team, and he was like, holy cow, this freshman's really good. I'm going to sit this Kelly kid, and I'm going to play Trevor Lawrence. Like, we don't have Trevor Lawrence on our team. But, like, Nick Saban says, oh, I got Jalen Hurts, who's playing in the NFL right now. But, look, I got this Tua kid behind him. I'm going to play him because I think he's better. And Tua was a better college quarterback. But it's all applicable. You said Drew Pine's a liability. I think we all agree Drew Pine's a liability.
Yep.
Why would we just keep living with a liability? That is chronic coaching of Tommy Rees. Chronic coaching. We just play what he thinks is our safest option, which is a loser mentality, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's tough, man. There's just a lot to navigate, and we got to try and figure out our way through salvaging the rest of this year and then take some big picture looks. So I don't know, my friend. It's going to be wild. We'll see if we show up. So what do you think? Do we show up ready to play against these guys, or are we sleepwalking at home again? Which is it?
Well, I mean, I think if we lose, I think it's going to be a close loss. I don't think Clemson's going to blow us out. Because I don't think Clemson is that they're not one of the elite Clemson teams.
They're not what they were a few years ago. They're not what we played in the playoff. No, they're not at that level. Definitely not. No.
They're not as a complete team
Yeah.
as they have been in the past. But I mean, can we win? I think I think a lot of it comes down to our scheme. Do we keep doing what we have been good at and playing off of it?
Yeah.
And I don't mean throwing the ball to Michael Mayer 40 times in the game. Like Michael Mayer needs to be a compliment. You know, because the meat of our offense needs to be running the ball. That's what we've been good at.
Yep.
That's what we're going to have to try and do. And honestly, I think if we were running the same running scheme against Ohio State, we would have scored more than 10 points. I really do believe that. And so I think we can score. You know, I think we can score 3 touchdowns. And one thing that we need to do, one thing that hurt us against Ohio State, I'm comparing Clemson and Ohio State, because they're the 2 best teams that we're playing. Ohio State, we had horrible field position. We can't have horrible field position, you know, against Clemson, because we just don't, we can't have 90-yard, you know, drives by just running the ball. Then you're going to have to throw it, and that's playing to our weakness, you know, to a degree. But let's get Colsey out there. He kind of played some possession ball for us, you know, kind of thing. He seems like another Mayer possession ball kind of player, which, you know, that can be a thing. He's a big target. Mayer's a big target. You know, run some possession plays for him. You know, where we're throwing a 10-yard route, and it's just more about picking up a first down here and there if we do get slowed down. But
yeah,
I don't know. It's going to be a fun game, but I think we can win. Do we win? I don't know. I don't know. I think it's good. But I don't think we get blown out, put it that way.
Yeah, and I just you got to play good at home this week, man. This is the one, and you have a little momentum. Yeah. It's a big environment. This is your.
I almost think it's good. I almost think it's good that we have a little bit of a chip on our shoulder for this home game.
Yeah, and it's like the way I
lost home game,
right?
But I think that could be a real sticking point, saying, hey. We don't show up at home. We got to show up. We got to get the energy going. We got to get something flowing here. And I just think that might put a little bit more emphasis. And it's at night, you know, and everything, but it might put a little bit more emphasis on hey, you can't lose home games, you know. And so I think it could end up being a little bit of a lift there.
Yeah, and I mean it's in the position Notre Dame's in the year that we've had. This is a bright spot for you. You're not playing for anything national. Every one of your games doesn't matter of you making some huge bowl game of the playoff. So you need to find what you need to find to be up. This is it. Your chance to ruin their season is your Super Bowl right now. That's the best you got. Yeah. That's the best. That's as high as it's going to get for you this year, is ruining their year, and then later making sure USC doesn't sneak in the playoff with 1 loss. If that's all they still have. Play the spoiler. That's about all you got left on the high end.
Yeah, playing spoiler and trying to end the season on a good note. I mean, hey, if we'd end the season 4-0, people, I think the tune would change.
The tune would change. Yeah, if you beat undefeated Syracuse and then ran the table through Navy and BC, and then you beat USC out there, that does change the narrative. I would love to have that discussion, but I'm only going to have it if it all happens.
Yeah, but don't lose focus. Replace Tommy Reed.
There you go. All right. Well, we'll see what happens this week, my friend. Go trick or treat and get yourself a Snickers. Have a good one.
You too.
See ya. Take care. Oh, man. $2 holler from Paul. Clemson will be ready for the tight end sneak. 7:03, you're up next. The other thing Clemson's going to be ready for is the run game. It's called the run game. I'm just telling you, they're not going to let Notre Dame sit there and just run the ball, and you're not going to be able to just sit there and run the ball north-south the way you did last week, and you're probably not going to be able to run it side to side either, because just like they said Syracuse has those athletes, you're not going to be to the edge side to side. You don't think Clemson does as well? So if you're not physical enough to just move them north-south, you have no choice. You are going to have to pass the ball to win. Can you make it creative? Can you make it innovative? Can you make it simple for Pine to read, simple for him to see where to go with the ball? What can we do? What can we do? 703, you're talking to me. Hello.
Happy Halloween, John.
Happy Halloween. So, yeah, are you happy with the Syracuse win? What is your feeling as we creep into Clemson week? How do you feel about all this?
I'm happy with the win. Obviously, I would like a little more from Pine, like at least a Kevin McDougal type performance.
Ooh, nice reference. I wasn't expecting a Kevin McDougal today. I like that. Good job.
Mm-hmm. But I think the whole team's really coming together and is playing at their best down the stretch when we need to the most. Because if we can run the table and go 10-3, I think they'll really turn some eyes.
Yeah, listen, if they ran the table and ended up with 3 losses after the way this all started, it's going to change a lot of the narrative. That's why I admit that it would change the narrative, but I'm not willing to get into how it's going to change the narrative and to what extent until I see that that's the reality. And I need to see it happen first. But this is the opportunity, man. This is your big opportunity. You get an undefeated, what's going to be a top 5 team at home. You can ruin their season. You can show you could play with the big boys and beat them, not just play with them and lose like earlier in the year with Ohio State. Like, this is a big opportunity. Can Notre Dame take advantage? It's a big question.
Mm-hmm. You know what? I'm really happy with the job that Harry's done. Like, I got to admit, I doubted him for a bit. But that performance against Syracuse, like, we just crunched their D-line.
Yeah.
And I think we can have at least some success against Clemson's D-line with the way that our O-line played against Syracuse.
Yeah, you need to, you're not going to run it for 240, 250 on them. And I don't need you to. But I need you to be able to run it effectively and efficiently enough that they have to honestly defend it and they can't just load up on you and then we're in real trouble. But there's no doubt about it. Pine is going to have to throw some to win this game if Notre Dame's going to do it, and he's going to have to be way more accurate than 50%. It cannot be a coin toss every time you throw the ball. Catch, incomplete, turnover, no. So they're going to have to get more efficient. It's the only way.
And Pine can't just stare at Michael Mayer for the whole time. And
Nope.
Throw it away or get sacked. We're going to have to spread it around, spread the love to Lorenzo Styles, Tobias Merriweather, and Deion Coldley. We needed to get those guys involved to have success.
Yeah, and somebody's saying in the chat, Matt Radke, my Nashville guy, he's saying, I just don't see Tommy making the proper adjustments to be able to beat Clemson. There's going to be a lot of 3rd and long, and 3rd and long is Pine's nightmare. So that's what I want to avoid. 1st and 2nd down, boring runs into a wall of 90 defenders. Now it's 3rd and 11, and then you set up Pine to fail and or get his head leveled. So those are the dynamics I need Notre Dame to try and avoid on offense all game. You have to avoid that.
Mm-hmm. And I really think that special teams, I know someone else said this, but if we can get like a blocked punt or two, that would really help out Pine and take the pressure off of him and just like do maybe a couple like short yardage runs for the touchdowns like we did against Syracuse. Because Dabo doesn't really focus that, sort of like Kelly, Dabo doesn't do much with special teams. Like, he doesn't put that much emphasis into it. And they have a freshman punter who's been inconsistent this year. So we can pressure him a bit, force him maybe to have a bad punt or two if we get pressure on him. That would really help out the offense.
Yep. I mean, special teams is always a big deal to me. I've complained on this show for all these years about Brian Kelly and Brian Pulley and special teams. Like, it's just a big deal to me. It's a pet peeve of mine. It offends me when Notre Dame doesn't even try and use them as an advantage as the third part of your team. Mason's a clear upgrade, and he's doing a fantastic job. And where that can show the most is in a game where you're not favored. Steal a possession or two. Flip field position. Do something. So give me one of those big plays this week. Give me one.
Mm-hmm. I would really think, like, if the crowd gets out of it and we have a big special teams play, that could also really help.
Yeah. Now, what do you make? What do you make of, forgive me if we've spoken about this on a previous call, but what do you make of Notre Dame not showing up at home? Do you think they'll be ready for this one because of who it is? I admit it's a lot different showing up at home to play Clemson undefeated than it is Marshall or Stanford. Like, that doesn't excuse what we did in those games, but shouldn't it be a lot naturally easier to come in with your hair on fire playing Clemson? I would think so, right?
Yeah. I think the reason that we haven't been playing well at home is because of the level of competition. Like the road teams that we played, Ohio State, North Carolina, Syracuse, they're the best 3 teams that we played. So the guys are just more ready for that sort of game. And they weren't as ready for the Marshalls, the Cals, the Stanfords. They just weren't, I think the guys just weren't as excited. They weren't as hyped. But I think they're going to come out like I watched the Catholics versus Convicts game a good bit. And those guys, when they're coming out of the tunnel, they're going crazy. I really hope that's how Freeman's team comes out against.
Yeah, I mean, but let me ask this. But let me ask this though. Mm-hmm. Here's what else gets hard with this discussion. How can they come out the way they did Catholics versus Convicts? Here's what I mean by that. Both teams were undefeated, playing to be number 1. It makes sense that would be that big and intense because you were literally good and the whole season was on the line and your championship, you had to win that. I don't think it's fair to expect that kind of emotion because it isn't that kind of dynamic. Even if Notre Dame beats them 50-0, they're not going to the Super Bowl or the playoff or any bowl game that matters, even if they kill Clemson. So that isn't the same dynamic, but this is phrased as, you guys, everybody's been crapping on us all year. This is our chance to show we're a damn good team and we're going to beat these guys at our place and show second half of the season Notre Dame's different. I just want to see them ready to play, man. This is a big game, a big moment. They should all be excited. It's a huge opportunity. Come out there ready to go.
Yeah, I was just hoping maybe Lou could do a speech in the locker room before the game. They could bring in Lou. I know Lou's old now. I think he's 89, but
Lou's looking really old. Lou's looking frail, bro. Lou looks real frail.
Yeah, but
so I don't know, man. I let me ask this: do you think Pine's going to put it together and be close to that 60, 70+% completion rate this week? Can he do it? Calm down, get accurate, make the big throws, keep us in this game. It's a big question.
Yeah, just hopefully Reese can do something to get him more locked in. He played so well against North Carolina. Is that just because their defense was bad? If he could play like that, I feel like we have a great chance of winning.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's just frustrating watching him play.
Yes, it is.
I hope that he can. I feel like if he just has more faith in the receivers, maybe that would help. Maybe just throwing to Merriweather, throwing to Colsey, throwing to Lindsey and Styles, those guys. Maybe he could just work on that in practice. Yeah,
I want Pine to succeed so much. I really do. Good kid, hard fighter, trying his best. We all do. There's just certain limitations that you're just never going to overcome if you're Drew Pine or you're me or somebody like that with that body. It's just tough, man. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but Notre Dame has a terrific opportunity here to really turn the tide of public perception, if nothing else. And I'm excited for it. I hope they come ready to play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hope the defense comes ready to play too, because if we could stop the run and force DJ to have an amazing game like he did last time, I don't know, because I don't know if he's the same guy that he was in the COVID year.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he definitely has not maintained a trajectory straight up since we saw him and all those yards he put up. That's for sure. So I don't know, man. We're going to see what's going to happen. It's going to be interesting. But give me a call later in the week. Let's talk about it more when we break down Clemson specifically. All right?
Yeah. Thanks, John.
Beautiful.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween, man. Have a good day. Your tricks and your treats. Oh, somebody put in the chat, and this is something I've been saying on this show for 6 or 7 years at least. Somebody put it in the chat. Let's see if I still have it starred. I don't know where the heck it was. But what they put was, yeah, I was impressed with the run game against Syracuse. But if you really want to give Harry credit and all of this offensive line U stuff, let's see what you do against Clemson. And then I'll revisit that. I say that all the time, you guys. I say it all the time. O-line U, O-line U, O-line U is all I hear from our fan base. And then we get in the playoff for our biggest game of the year, and we're running it for like 46 yards. How is that all O-line U? How is that O-line U? They always say good offense beats good defense in football. Okay, you're O-line U. You have to explain to me then why every single time we play the best team we play in a year, we can't outrun the ball, and then we lose, and we play bad offense. That's always been my problem with O-line U. It's always O-line U against teams that suck. And then it's not O-line U every time we play the best team on the schedule and then we lose. Suddenly it's not O-line U anymore, and I got a problem with that. I don't like it. I don't like it. Right. If playing for ND doesn't excite your ass as a player to get hyped for games, you're not a football player. I don't know either how you cannot get excited about playing at Notre Dame, especially a big road game or a big home game against a good team. I don't get it either. Oh, all right, folks. That's going to be it for today. I got some things I got to tend to. Busy day and a lot of other content I have to record before Halloween kicks in later tonight. Thanks for the chats. Thanks for the donations. Thanks for the call. Thanks for dealing with my mask and all that. I know it wasn't a typical show or flow, but I appreciate you all. Happy Halloween. We'll see you Wednesday.